Welcome to MasterCard's 5th annual ad automation panel in Cannes. This year we're doing it along with Andy Plesser and BTV, so we're really happy to have Andy part of the program. And I'm Jay Sears, and I run the ad intelligence group at MasterCard. We have a great group of executives joining us today, and what I'm going to do is what you're used to me doing. So I'm going to quickly introduce everybody, and then we're going to do a spirited discussion about the issues of the day. And then, of course, we're all finished with some word association that I know you guys all love. So to my immediate left is Scott Hagedorn. So Scott's founder and CEO of Hearts and Sciences at Omnicom, and previously the CEO and chief architect of Analect, prior CEO PhD, and on and on. What you don't know is Scott is an avid guitarist, an amateur pianist, and a marginal, admittedly, self-identified vocalist.
And a backyard chemist.
And a backyard chemist, thank you. And I'm not going to go dig into that at all. And he just spoke at the Umbrella conference in Sydney where he said the industry has poisoned programmatic. So maybe that's one of the things we'll talk about. Next is Arun Kumar. Arun is Chief Data and Marketing Technology Officer of IPG Media Brands. He's also Global Head of Cadreon. And he's the first ever Chief Data and Marketing Technology Officer in Media Brands and IPG. So that's pretty big. And he's lived all over the world doing what we all do in Singapore, London, and New York. And then next is Brian Lesser. Brian is CEO of GroupM North America. And prior to GroupM, he was global CEO of Xaxis. Many of you know that, where he built a billion-dollar business, revenue business in just 5 years. Well done. And then long time before that, MIG and 24/7. And then in the end of the array here is Doug Ray, President, Product and Innovation at Dentsu Aegis. And previously, Doug was U.S. CEO of Cara, their flagship media network. And under Doug's guidance, they doubled their billings and revenue. Now, where I want to start is all of you have new or expanded roles in the last 6 to 18 months. And so I want to ask each of you, and Arun, I'm going to start with you. You added the global data role in addition to your being head of Cadreon. And one of the things I asked you was, hey, what do you see now that you didn't see when you were only in the Cadreon role? And one of the things you said is Cadreon is only one part of buying. And you talked a lot about the planning function. So tell us a minute about that.
Yeah, you get, in this role, what I've started to see is actually what's the reality of the imbalance between planning and buying, where our planning tools are activated by data sets which are still not quite where they should be. And I think we've done a fair amount of step change in that, but there's a lot more to be done. It's also interesting to look at the entire organization and see how there are silos that have been created which are legacies from the past and how you need to clean them in order to make some of the tech and the systems work. And that's all that I've been focused on for the last 3 to 4 months since I've gotten into the role. And it's interesting to see how much the tech is a reality versus how much we get in our own way sometimes. And just charting that process forward and getting our systems in line, it's a great opportunity because when I was sitting in a purely Cadreon role, I used to sit and say, well, it's not really a Cadreon problem. It's because you're not really thinking about this marketing problem in this particular way. And if you just change the way you thought about it right up front, it wouldn't end up being a bottleneck down in the Cadreon side. And now I actually have the chance to make those bottlenecks go away.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Good. Brian, I want to go to you next. 18 months ago, you took the GroupM North America role after many years at Xaxis. And I asked you the same thing, and you talked about just being close to clients and having a new understanding.
Yeah, I mean, when I was managing Xaxis, I used to tell people that we were going to be the future of the media agency. And of course, that's what you do to motivate people is you say, you know, we're going to run it someday. And now, you know, I think my background is not traditional media agencies. My background is programmatic and product management, and I think it's a sign of the times that people with data analytics platform backgrounds are now being put in a position to manage media agencies. And for me, it's a matter of making sure our agencies have an appropriate platform to do a lot of what Arun said, which is make sure that we are data informed at every step along the way. Not just programmatic activation, but in planning and activation across all channels.
Yeah, okay. And Scott, 18 months ago, over to Hearts and Sciences, and one of the things you told me when we were talking about today is you said, quote, we had too much emphasis on programmatic activation in the marketplace side. And we also talked about planning, right? And they're needing to be more focused there.
Yeah, I mean, all of us, I think, probably are guilty of focusing too much on the buying side of programmatic and thinking about sort of a set it and forget it type of working where you put a client's KPIs in, you let it machine optimize at the DSP level, and we really under-leverage the audience creation and syndication side of it. And I think I would say that the buying side of programmatic is actually the least important side of programmatic, and probably what's the two most important sides, I think of it as 3 versus 2, are the audience creation and syndication, and also using now some of the new ad serving capabilities like an Innovid or Flash Talking or SpongeCell to do the orchestration of the creative assets in the product. And we're at it's interesting as a media agency to be at this new kind of frontier of being able to think about the orchestration of a campaign and potentially turning AI on. And, because like if you look at automotive, do I know actually the proper sequence of brand to feature to styling to offer and how that works against day parts or creative formats? I don't. But it might be cool to let like chaos reign for a little while and turn on AI and then see what happens to optimize it against actually conversion or intent or sales.
Yeah, that's great stuff. And Doug, you're different than these other 3 folks. I mean, the other 3 folks basically started kind of in the programmatic nucleus of a lot of organizations. You really started as an operator at Kara and other places, and now you have this elevated Dentsu role across product and innovation. And when we talked, you were kind of saying, hey, my job is to make 1 + 1 3. So what's that like for you?
Yeah, you're right. My background, I've always been sort of on the planning and strategy and client management side, and not really so much on the buying side. And at the end of the day, what has made great plans and great strategies and then ultimately translated into great buys is human insight, right? And to be able to have a deep understanding of customers. And I think that's what clients are looking for, right? They're looking for the human truth. They're looking for the insight to ultimately help them with sales performance and better outcomes on their media. And so, as I was looking at the opportunity, we started to see a lot of data, and really data is just information. There's not an insight. You actually have to use the data to derive the insight. And so we talk about how do we humanize data, right? How do we actually make that meaningful to clients? And so, as I started to look at it, it's a little bit going back to school in some respects because I know what moves clients' business. I know what moves them and gets them excited. But we have a potential risk in actually focusing too much on siloed data. And there's a lot of conversations about programmatic, certainly, and there's certainly the data that sits within the programmatic space, but there's so many other types of data that clients have, CRM data as an example, and so on, that we actually need to have a much more holistic conversation to unlock those human insights that are going to lead to better outcomes.